Lawsuits. It feels like every month we get a story of a new one from the internet. Some come with merit and some entirely without. Most recently, a furry by the name of Blue Falf claimed to be suing ValidEls, an infamous Twitter account that has been in a bunch of drama. But after just a few days and a lot of chatter, it's already been dropped. So what happened? Well, all of this begins with the furry community. Now, it's been a while since we've seen a popular furry influencer really blow up. You know, back around 2018, there were a few, but after the Kiro the Wolf situation, I think the community as a whole took a big hit, and a lot of these pop-you-furs were seen in a different light. Not necessarily because all of them were as bad as Kiro or even close, but Kiro was integral to the community, got shouted out in a Shane Dawson video, and was really the biggest furry YouTuber, at least who was making furry content. When the most popular furry ends up also f***ing dogs, well, it looks really bad, both to those inside and outside of the furry community. But now we have Blue Falf, who has come along, has nearly 70,000 followers on Twitter, and has gotten a decent amount of tweets that have blown up where they just post dumbass memes. And by the way, Blue is also trans, so I'm going to use she, her pronouns for the rest of this video, just so there's no confusion. Well, a lot of the memes that have blown up of Blue are pretty cringeworthy and don't have much in the way of comedy. It's just sort of, hey, look at me, I'm trans, which is not the worst thing ever, but I think to the average person, this stuff is just obnoxious and unfunny when it comes across their timeline. You know, you need more of a joke other than just your identity for it to be truly, you know, enjoyable by a mass amount of people, you know what I mean? But the majority of the shit this person got was just people making fun of them for being weird or being cringe, as most furries are. So that's not super surprising, right? Like, whatever. But then what happened was ValidEls got involved. ValidEls, I would say, is sort of a more extreme version of Libs of TikTok. You would probably call the account broadly anti-LGBT, given every single post they make is like a gay or trans person taking an L, so to speak. Now, some of this stuff I don't really care about, to be honest. It doesn't really make a difference to me. I don't give a shit. They can post whatever they want. They can troll however they want. They can make gay people mad. I don't care, okay? But then I see them cheering on people's death, and that definitely goes too far, okay? I think whatever your opinion is on trans people, I think that wishing for them to die is fucking crazy. But even that is kind of whatever, because while I think you should criticize ValidEls for that, in my eyes, it's also just internet shit, okay? It's just them expressing their opinion, which is I think stupid, but it's like, you know, what am I really supposed to do about that? Like, criticize them, call them dumb, okay, I did that. And the thing is, I also see people from the other side of the political spectrum cheer for death all the time, even towards me on Twitter, so I just kind of see it as two sides of the same coin, right? Two sides of very crazy people on far political extremes, you know? But then ValidEls ended up posting fake messages to imply Blue Falf was a pedophile, which is obviously wrong. And this is where things really started to heat up. So here we have the messages that ValidEls tweeted out. Blue says hi, and then this other user, Emmy Chan, says hello. Blue then asks to roleplay. Emmy Chan says they're bad at it. Blue asks how old they are, and Emmy Chan says they're 14. Now, at the time that this was posted, it was posted with no context of the ValidEls account in just a tweet as a screenshot. There was no further confirmation that these were real or proof that it was real, but a decent amount of people just kind of took it and ran with it from ValidEls following, because obviously they have an incentive to believe that a trans furry is a pedophile, right? And one of these people apparently got into contact with Blue Falf's father, which resulted in these messages that Blue ended up posting. Apparently after this, their parents also foolishly gave up Blue's address, thinking it was necessary for police involvement of some kind, and that obviously is bad because now Blue's dox is in the hands of people who really hate them, you know what I mean? Blue at the time managed to post some evidence that it was faked through this tweet, wherein we see messages from the ValidEls chat, which I guess is like a Telegram chat. I don't know if ValidEls runs it or is even in it. I haven't been able to, you know, find any further details on this chat, but the implication here is that these people wanted to fake evidence against Blue to make them look like a groomer of some kind. I hate this bitch. Next target. And while this op did not convince the public, Blue claims it did material harm to her life, as she did have, you know, someone contact her father about it, who I believe then cut off contact from Blue and Blue's mother, and obviously Blue's father as well, himself cut off contact. So in that way, I mean, there clearly is a loss of reputation in their personal life, right? This false information was then believed by her father, and her father now thinks that she's some kind of child groomer, which is, you know, as far as I can tell, not the case. And in case there's any kind of ambiguity for my audience, my hatred of furries and how cringe I find them does not cloud my judgment in this situation. If you intentionally fake evidence about someone, you're a piece of shit, and there's just no way around it. You should be held accountable however you can be. But this is where the trouble starts. How accountable can you hold ValidEls for this? What can even be done? Well, as you can imagine, some people began trying to deplatform ValidEls. In fact, it trended on Twitter at the time. I think it's trended before, but it trended at this time as well. People really wanted their account to get suspended. That evidently did not work, as the ValidEls account is still up and tweeting. In the midst of all of this as well, Blue also released this video to discuss the situation, which I'll play now. You guys can skip to the end of it if you want, but I'll just put it here in full so you guys can get the full context.
Over the past 48 hours, I've been doxxed, harassed. My parents have been harassed. Just, it's been an awful situation. There's also a lot of private stuff that happened behind the scenes that I am not going to get into right now for legal reasons. Most of you are probably aware of the situation. If you aren't, though, I'll do a quick little recap here. Basically, an account named ValidEls made a post on me talking about how I was grooming minors or whatever. It was a fake screenshot. There's tons of proof here. It's been confirmed by the chat itself that they're just doing it to fuck with me. This led into tons of harassment from them, just post after post, them targeting me, trying to destroy my reputation, trying to hurt me, trying to get me doxxed, trying all this stuff. But the reason why I want to make this video now is I want to put a bow tie on this situation, and I want to talk about trolling and trolls and just harassment in general. Now, of course, these type of people are just bullies, basically. They don't care, and they can't be canceled, and they're going to keep doing this no matter what, because they're truly terrible people. At the end of the day, what we need to do is ignore these people until they cross a line, until they start doxing someone or harassing them, because that's a crime, and they can go to prison for that. Anyway, guys, thank you for all the support. It means the world to me. And stay safe out there.
Now, right off the bat, there are a few things off with this video. A common misconception is that doxing is a crime. It's actually not. Doxing is legal. You can actually post someone's information online. You can say what their address is. You can post it. I think almost anywhere in any state, you can legally post their address on the internet, and there's nothing like legally wrong with that. What is wrong is if you then say, hey, here's their address, go do harm to them, go cause shit to them. And that's why, you know, Kiwi Farms is a website that operates within the law, because posting someone's dox or personal information is not illegal. Now, it can be illegal to obtain that information. Like, let's say that you hack someone's account to get that information. That is a crime. That is a criminal act, hacking their account. But if the information is already public and you just found it, then that's not a crime. That's not against the law. That's not to defend doxing or anything like that, but that is to say that you can't throw someone in jail for doxing. Now, another term that Blue uses is harassment. Harassment as a term is sort of difficult to prove as well. You'd be hard pressed to find someone taken to criminal court for harassing you if all they did is make tweets about you and made fun of you, right? As far as going to jail, you're probably not going to get anyone thrown in jail for tweeting about you, or even for like texting your dad. It's probably not going to happen. Regardless, I still have empathy for what Blue went through, and I think that they should be supported broadly given what ValidEls did. Whatever cringe factor there may be to Blue, they were falsely accused, and you know, whoever's falsely accused deserves to be defended. Now, a lot of people have said that Blue should just stop interacting with ValidEls because ultimately giving that account attention is exactly what it wants. Whoever runs it doesn't give a shit about having a bad reputation. They don't care about optics, okay? They just get off on gay people being angry at them. But on the other hand, when someone is posting false evidence implying you're a predator, I mean, how exactly can that be ignored, right? Like, if it gets any considerable amount of attention, which I believe the tweet did have a few thousand likes when it was up, obviously you're going to be upset at that. Obviously, you know, you're probably going to want to dispel that rumor so people don't think you're a fucking pedo. Sure, you can choose to ignore it, but then to some, you look guilty. Then again, if you keep interacting, you basically lose too, because ValidEls loves the attention. They get high off that shit. And ultimately, they have nothing to lose. They have no reputation at stake. Their personal information, as far as I know, isn't even made public, isn't out there. Some people have posted doxes of them that I believe were fake. Nobody really knows who runs this account. And so this is someone who has nothing to lose and can basically act with complete impunity, versus Blue as a public figure with their face, name, and address, you know, out there floating around, right? So the next method that Blue attempted was a lawsuit. On April 25th, Blue tweeted asking if they should take ValidEls to court. She got a lot of support from people in the replies who seemed to think that she had a strong case for defamation. And in a literal sense, you know, not a legal sense necessarily, but in a literal sense, Blue was clearly defamed by ValidEls, okay? That DM was not real, and because it's not real, and because people believed it to be true, and because people spread it as, you know, unsubstantiated evidence that Blue was a pedo, that is a harm to Blue's reputation, right? There's no doubt about that. And I know the reason why ValidEls hates Blue is because they're trans, and honestly, if they want to hate them because they're trans, there's not much you can do about that. But if the goal here is to make transphobes look good or reasonable, it definitely didn't work, because ValidEls easily has one of the worst reputations on Twitter in regards to their track record, you know? No matter who or what Blue is, the average person does not like lying and really frowns upon it. And so if you're trying to further some political movement or something, you're really acting in error there. Especially with recent situations happening in the YouTube community, like with the Quite situation, where false allegations were thrown out calling him a rapist, and then literally half of Twitter was caught with their pants down, their tail between their legs, when they realized that they believed an allegation with zero evidence. I mean, there wasn't even like one screenshot to show that Quite had done anything even close to that. Never mind something in the way of like a police, you know, report or something like that. And everyone believed it, and then, you know, it got flipped on its head as soon as Quite responded. Now, in this case, there was not just no evidence, but the evidence that there was entirely fabricated, which is egregious. But can you take this to court? Well, in the replies, you have a lot of people saying that Blue should. Do it not just for yourself, but for every person they've ever attacked and will ever attack. They tried to make you look like a felon. Lying about assault and stuff is nothing compared to this. Oh, of course. Honestly, this would be a gold mine for a firm with how many people they've hurt and how liable Twitter and ValidEls could be for what these people have done. If I do decide to go through with it, this will be for everyone they've hurt. Now, first of all, the idea that Twitter is liable for this is ridiculous. According to CDA 230, which is a part of U.S. law surrounding these platforms like Twitter and YouTube, these platforms are not liable for content that happens on their site. So Twitter would not be liable in any way for anything. There's simply no case to be made that Twitter is responsible in any way for what ValidEls did or any misinformation posted about like anyone. It's just not Twitter's fault. You can't take that in court. It's not going to hold up. And, you know, CDA 230 is one of these things that is fundamental to the internet, you know, keeping going, keeping up, to all these platforms and websites working. Without it, if every website was forced to be held responsible for everything their users do, then every single website would collapse, because the very profit model of a website like Twitter or YouTube is user-generated content. And if you have to moderate every single thing and scrutinize every single little thing, and if these websites are to be held liable for any post like ValidEls slandering someone, then their website would collapse, because it just wouldn't be sustainable. There's no way you can moderate that much content effectively and approve or disapprove of, you know, every piece of content. It's just impossible. Well, anyway, with that out of the way, would a lawsuit against ValidEls hold up? That's the real question here, right? Well, on May 10th, Blue posted a short video to Twitter saying that she was filing a lawsuit and that she started a GoFundMe to help pay for legal fees. Out of 292 donations, it managed to raise more than $8,000, which is no small fee when it comes to a GoFundMe, undoubtedly. And the description for the GoFundMe reads as follows. ValidEls is a large Twitter account and online community that doxes and harasses trans people, gets them swatted, mocked, abused, hurt, and is nothing but a game to them. They recently targeted me in an online campaign in an attempt to get more attention by posting fake screenshots, calling me a pedophile, etc., which led to screenshots getting sent to my father, non-stop harassment for days on end, and even worse. They've done this for many trans people, and I'm taking matters into my own hands, since Twitter nor Telegram will do anything to end this insanity. The legal fees will be costly, but I have friends and people in my life like you guys that will hopefully help me afford this. That's why I'm starting this GoFundMe. For example of the cost, it will be around $1K to $3K just for an attorney to review the case alone, possibly $25,000 or more in total. The goal for this case is to take the moral high ground and make some terrible people have real-world consequences for their horrible actions online. There most likely won't be any monetary gain from the case. However, if the judge rules the other party must pay my legal fees, the funds will be donated to charity. And, you know, this seems pretty noble, the idea that some people online who slander and lie about others maybe should be held accountable. I would agree with that. Broadly, do I think trolling needs to be taken to court? No. But this goes a step beyond trolling. This is a case where ValidEls specifically posted an unsubstantiated, basically allegation against this person, right? Now, when it comes to defamation, it can be extremely hard to prove in a court of law, and actually getting a case together to begin with, especially when it comes to internet stuff, is very difficult. And just to clarify, defamation is actually not a crime in most places. You can't be criminally convicted of defamation. Defamation goes to civil court and is considered more of a civil wrong than a criminal wrong. You cannot put someone in fucking jail for defamation. You can only win money, really, or some other kind of reward materially as a part of a judgment, right? Now, defamation itself is comprised of 5 ifs, and you have to check every box basically to take this to court and have a chance of winning. Firstly, the statement needs to be made in public, not just in private to one person, right? It needs to be published. If you message someone something false about another person, if you say it in private in a coffee shop, that's not defamation. It needs to be published to at least one person that's a third party. So like a news article or something like that, right? Secondly, the statement needs to be false. Now, did ValidEls actually make a statement? Well, you could argue no, actually. You could say that they just posted a screenshot. Maybe this screenshot wasn't made by them. You could say it was just posted to be satirical or comedic in nature. Maybe they could try to argue they were just reposting something that someone else posted. I mean, the lack of caption can make it somewhat dubious because ValidEls didn't say anywhere specifically that Blue is a pedophile. Now, maybe you could argue that ValidEls had been talking about Blue a lot on Twitter. They had a prior engagement in terms of a public back and forth. Maybe then ValidEls could claim, though, that they were just reporting it for some reason. Intent does matter. So already this isn't so cut and dry. You know what I mean? Like, you really need to have someone dead to rights to get defamation. And I'm not totally convinced that we totally have a legal case for this as of yet. Thirdly, whoever hears a statement needs to understand who it was about. Obviously, in this case, that one can fall in Blue's favor because, you know, the majority of people seem to think that it was about Blue. Obviously, Blue's username is there. It was created to mimic Blue's Discord account at the time, right? Now, fourth, you need to prove damages. You need to have some kind of damage to the plaintiff's reputation. And that one is pretty easy, you know, because obviously Blue had a loss of reputation from her father thinking that she's a pedophile. People believed that, and it caused a loss of connection through her family. But as far as proving monetary damages, well, Blue had already actually been kicked out of the house for being a furry by her father, so it's hard to say if there was any real monetary damages involved on paper. Like, it's hard to say what they would even be winning back apart from maybe legal fees, right? And fifth, you need to prove that this loss of reputation was because of whatever this libel or slander was. Now, in this case, it's pretty obvious because the whole thing with Blue's dad went down right after the tweet from ValidEls, so obviously it was a result of that tweet. So on one hand, you have some clear things in Blue's favor. On the other hand, you have some things that aren't in Blue's favor. Now, this is already a shaky case so far, in my opinion. I mean, for everything we've gone over, it may be hard to really prove that this is defamation, right? Or it was intended to harm, Blue's reputation. It's hard to prove that there was malice here, okay? And as far as what Blue wants to do, which according to them is find a gold mine for a law firm with multiple people being sued, not just ValidEls, things are already pretty convoluted, and I really don't think this is going to be a gold mine for any law firm. This is already internet shit involving like furries, involving some random Twitter account, involving a bunch of probably deleted tweets already and stuff like that. They're going to have to figure out who the people in the case are, which is not impossible. You can subpoena Twitter to get their identities, to get ValidEls' identity. That's not that difficult, but they're going to have to go through that. Blue doesn't have much of a career, so to speak. They have like a Twitter account, so there's not really a lot of damages being lost. I don't think Blue makes money off the internet. And as far as the money raised already, $8,000 is just not enough for a defamation case where lawyers have to sift through Twitter furry drama. I'm sorry to say it's not enough. Now, a lot of people called this lawsuit a scam. I don't think it's a scam. I think Blue is just kind of dumb and listens to what their Twitter audience tells them a lot, which honestly can be a bad idea because terminally online furries are bound to have very limited legal expertise, even less so than a dumb YouTuber like myself who can only repeat what he finds on the internet about the law. Now, ValidEls themselves actually called this a scam, saying it's 100% a scam. And why did ValidEls say that? One, he didn't even consult or contact a lawyer beforehand, a big lol if he only listened to his friends online, if the case is even possible, and the estimated cost, hence why. Now, that's true. Blue definitely should have contacted a lawyer beforehand. Two, he isn't even aware of how much a defamation case would cost him, even if considering his chance at winning. His so far $7,000 is just a fraction of what would be the total cost, and I don't think a kid who just lost his only income of dad's financial support is able to pay the lawyer enough. Three, he said the GoFundMe donation to $1. Why? GoFundMe lets you withdraw as soon as the donation goal has been hit, so he'll use that to withdraw the money ASAP. He promised to refund all of it back to everyone, but not sure how that will happen now after it's been withdrawn. Now, this third point from ValidEls is pretty stupid. The second point is true as far as, the fundraising money not being enough, but as far as it being withdrawn, quote unquote, I think it's very easy to refund through GoFundMe. I don't think it's that difficult. You can just send it back. And as far as I know, Blue hasn't actually taken the money out of the GoFundMe account yet. Big lamau for the donators. Blue has only 3 options now. 1, refund all of it back. 2, find a lawyer and use the money on that. 3, run away with the money and instead get fursuits, sex toys, and tickets to furry cons, but that would be fraud. Now, obviously, ValidEls is going to have the worst possible interpretation of what Blue wants to do here with this fundraiser money. I just personally don't see it. I don't think that Blue's going to go buy furry or whatever. Even if Blue was a scammer or was in this all for the money, they actually stand to produce way more money, from making furry content on YouTube or something like that than they ever would from this dumb lawsuit, which would actually get them in a lot of if they scam people out of their donos anyway, because it would be the last time anyone would ever donate to them. Like, imagine if Keffel started a fundraiser now. It wouldn't fucking work. Not to mention, like ValidEls said, that would constitute fraud, if Blue were to just run away with the money, and they'd have a lot bigger problems than just the YouTube community. They would have to deal with the federal government. There were also a lot of people saying things to the effect of, just a heads up, this person has openly admitted they do not know ValidEls' identity and that the GoFundMe is going to pay for a PI on top of a lawyer, which isn't mentioned in their GoFundMe. They also state they have other people who are financing this lawsuit. Now, as far as financing this lawsuit, I think Blue did in the GoFundMe itself state there would be a few other friends potentially financing the lawsuit. As far as the PI, that definitely should have been revealed. But, once again, I could honestly chalk that up to negligence rather than malice on Blue's part. Now, I'm pretty sure that the lawyers could just subpoena Twitter to get ValidEls' info as well, and it wouldn't be that difficult to get his identity or her identity. I'm assuming it's a guy, though. But then you have the issue of, what if the dude's from Afghanistan, where they don't have to give a shit about American lawsuits or American court? You know what I mean? What do you really do about that? And so after all of this criticism and a lot of people pointing out that, this lawsuit may be kind of on shaky ground, Blue ended up posting an announcement saying they decided to drop the lawsuit because they were in over their head. I'm not strong enough to handle the ValidEls lawsuit, so I'm canceling it. It's too much pressure and it wasn't a good idea. I'm sorry for letting y'all down. I just wanted justice to be served. deserved. Refund should be issued within 3 to 5 days. PM me if you don't receive it. I know I'm gonna get so much for this, but I just want it to be over. I can't handle it, so I'm locking my account for a bit. I was serious about this the whole time, but now with how big it's gotten, it just became a disaster. And this is probably the best resolution we could have gotten because of how shaky the ground was around the case. Hopefully ValidEls can f off and go back to posting bait, and Blue can go back to posting whatever this is. I'm really sick of furries, man. You know, there's this quote about good and evil. I can't remember who said it or what the exact quote is either, but the basic gist of it is that people often ascribe f-ups or tragedies or whatever to evil rather than stupidity, when most of the time stupidity is the far more likely explanation. You should almost always ascribe someone's failure to stupidity or hubris rather than intentionally trying to screw something up. And in this case, I don't think anyone should call Blue a scammer, just kind of a silly Billy with too much time on their hands and a lack of worldly knowledge, who listened to their Twitter followers who didn't really know what they were talking about. Hopefully in the future stuff like this won't happen again. Hopefully people don't get slandered. Hopefully dumb lawsuits aren't, you know, talked about, and then GoFundMes aren't started for them. All around, hopefully everyone walks away from this situation being less cringe than they were before or something. I don't know. Follow my Instagram, TomButDark. Leave a like on the video. Leave a comment down below with your thoughts. Follow at AnonBird on Twitter, whoever that is. Not sure who he is, but I hear he's cool. And yeah, see you guys later. Bye.